Hi there, I'm Hugh. I want to commend you on taking action towards sorting out your own personal, whatever's going on for you. We all have a very unique and personal relationship with pain and with healing, and everybody is different. For me, my childhood was riddled with aches and pains. My leg was a 10 out of 10 pain. My healing journey took a long time before I could actually feel some results. So for 10 years, I suffered around and I was miserable. I couldn't walk properly. It affected my self-esteem. It affected lots of different aspects of my life. And it wasn't till I took personal responsibility for really showing up and doing a deep dive into why I wasn't getting answers from conventional healing modalities that I started to get some action. So I went to chiropractors, I went to acupuncturists, I had surgery, I had various different things that were really not getting me very far at all. I might get some temporary results, but then aches and pains would come back. And I hear that a lot from clients, and it seems to be a very common thing. People go and get massages, they get chiropractic treatments, they get advice from doctors of all sorts, and they still end up with ongoing aches and pains, and I don't want that for you. Now, my deep dive took me into the fascinating world of fascia, and after a decade worth of pain, nobody had mentioned this word fascia. So I don't even remember how I stumbled across it, but it was the thing that took me from a 10 out of 10 pain down to like a 2 out of 10 pain. Life was bearable again. So my biggest takeaway from the deep dive was that restrictions in the fascia can create pain and a lack of range of motion. Now, 10, 20, 30, how long ago? 30 years ago, no one was mentioning fascia. Nowadays, it's become a bit of a buzzword, and so you might have come across it before. But basically, what you're looking at is your muscles and your bones and your nerves and your organs and all the things in your body are held together by fascia. And when it becomes restricted, then each of those organs, bones, muscles, all the things, they can't function like they are meant to. So when we have these restrictions in our body, then we just don't function as optimally as we can. They come from overuse, underuse, or trauma. So trauma could come from obvious things like a car accident or a sporting injury or something like that. But it could also come from emotional situations, spiritual situations, things where stress boils up. So before I explain more about that, then I want you to check in and just see where you're at. So scan your body. There might be something that's screaming at you, and it's the thing that you really want to resolve. So it might be shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, knee pain, whatever it might be. Have a scan and see what else is going on, because usually there's more than one thing going on. Like when I put my hands on a body, then yes, there'll be some local restrictions in and around whatever area hurts, but often there's far more stuff going on throughout the rest of the body. Like I've seen people that have shoulder issues, for example, and I'll do my little assessment thing and then figure out that, that tracks all the way down to, for example, down to an ankle. And that ankle might have been injured like 20 years beforehand and just has never gotten resolved. So there's more than just that, where it hurts. There's an old saying where they say, where it hurts, the problem ain't. And that's pretty much always the case. There might be a shoulder issue, but then there's all this other stuff that will create misalignment through the rest of the body. And without, like if you just do work on the shoulder, then the pain will probably come back because there's the rest of these compensations or patterns or whatever you want to call them through the body that will just re-trigger what's going on through the body. So the end solution, just to fast forward a little bit into how to get yourself out of pain, is to not just work on where it hurts, but where the rest of the restriction is through the body. There's things that you can do that might help you out in the short term. So they might be stretching, they might be foam rolling kind of things. Done right, they can make at least a short-term difference and get you out of your immediate pain. So what is fascia? Fascia is like, I'll give you the vegetarian version, an orange. So if you peel the skin off the orange, then you're left with the segments. The segments are kind of glued together. When you peel the segments apart, then there's this white stuff in between. That white stuff is kind of like the fascia in the body. It holds our bits together. It holds our organs, it holds our bones, muscles, nerves, all the things where they need to be. Now, it also protects them. So it does that by tightening up when there's some sort of perceived threat. So that might be a real threat, like a car accident or something like that. It might be an emotional threat, so dealing with a boss that you don't want to deal with, or there's lots of reasons for things tightening up. But when that happens, it creates these restrictions that stop force from transferring. So the function of the body is to transfer force through various chains of the body. So if you've heard of, like anyone in strength training would probably have heard of the posterior chain. Fascially speaking, it's the same thing as the superficial back line, which is a chain of muscles that work together. So it runs along the plantar fascia, along the back of the leg, up the back and over the head. When we're subject to some sort of a force, then the force is distributed not just through, for example, the plantar fascia. If we're going for a run, then we put our foot down on the ground, the force goes into our foot, doesn't just stop in the plantar fascia, it runs through the calf, through the hamstring, through the back, and distributes the force through the body. Now, if there's some sort of restriction in the body, then the force might get stuck and might not go through the whole body, but get stuck at the ankle, get stuck at the knee, get stuck at the hip, wherever it gets stuck. And that can be perceived by the body as a threat, and so can trigger more response. It'll start, over time, it'll start creating restrictions elsewhere in the body so that the body doesn't get broken by this threat. So the things that will cause tightness in the body are going to be trauma, overuse or underuse. So direct trauma obviously will have some sort of a response, but overuse or underuse will also have a response. So think about maybe someone sitting at a desk all day, they're staring at their computer, hunched over, neck forward, head looking like this at the screen. There's various different muscles in the body that will be staying still but overused. So it's underuse and overuse at the same time. Now, the body will try and make us more efficient by tightening things up. So if it thinks that we want to be sitting here all day, then it will tighten things up, because then you don't have to tighten the muscles, it saves energy, and voila shebang, you are so much more efficient at sitting. But the problem is that when you go to stand up, then you're still in that sitting down position, so your butt is sticking out and your head is still forwards, and we're very efficient at sitting, but that doesn't necessarily translate into being efficient at doing anything else. So that is kind of overuse and underuse all at the same time. Trauma might be fairly obvious as well, so we have an impact on the body, and like a whiplash, for example, so that all the muscles in the neck are under strain, and as a result of that, the body goes, oh, that's a bad idea, so it locks things up. The problem is that in the short term, it's helpful. In the long term, it might stick around and just create problems for you, like pain and the rest of things. So the restrictions are things that we need to release. Now, the conventional way of thinking is that we're like a machine. And so if we're like a machine, then we just bulldoze out those restrictions and that's how they will disappear. So that's where things like foam rolling and very heavy pressure massage kind of work have their, well, that's what the theory is, that that's the thing that will help. And to be honest, it can help to some degree, but we just talked about trauma, and for some people, the threat of someone's elbow deep inside one's, whatever muscle, it can create more problems. So you can walk away from a deep tissue massage and you might feel worse than you did to start off with. So it's not funny, but there's a better solution. Let's just say that. So the gentle approach it actually came from a personal need. Wind the clock back 16 years. That's when my eldest kid was born. And he had some issues straight out of the womb, some scoliosis with him. And at that point, I was doing more of this heavy style myofascial release. So I had to kind of go back to the drawing board and figure out something that was going to help him. And it wasn't going to be heavy knuckles and elbows and the like. It was going to be something a lot more gentle. And he offered some incredible feedback. Like, kids just respond so well to this technique, and it turns out that adults do as well. But I didn't know that at that point. So he was kind of my greatest teacher. So when I put my hands on him, he just responded incredibly well. So over the years, I started incorporating those gentle techniques into all of my clients. And now that's everything I do, because the reality is that your body needs to heal. And if your body needs to heal, like, the best place that we can be for any sort of healing would be as close to sleep as possible. That's what we do every day to rest and recover. So that's the parasympathetic, the rest and digest phase. And what I find with my sessions is that a lot of people are asleep at some point during the session, because releasing the restrictions in the body, it's basically taking stress out of the body. And when you take stress out of the body, then guess what? You fall into this sleepy state. So I often get asked, like, can anyone actually stay awake during these sessions? There are people that like to chat, and that's a-okay. But, like, really think about it. Like, if you're needing to heal, then do you want to be bulldozed, or do you want to get into this healing space? So that's really the beauty of gentle myofascial release. It releases the restrictions that are in the body that's related to the pain that you're experiencing, and it does so in a very relaxing way. So I want you to help me out. One of the things that I do as part of the assessment is to have a conversation about where things started. So winding back the clock, what came first? Like, some people, they'll feel the shoulder pain, but before that there was back pain, before that there was knee pain, and sometimes they're related, sometimes they're not, but like, things where the pain came from nowhere often are an accumulation of restrictions through the body that have come from compensations for other injuries. So have a think about where things started to get bad for you, and not like debilitating bad, but even just a small thing. Like, it could be a rolled ankle, it could be you tweaked an elbow or something when you were gardening. All those sort of things can have an effect on the way the body responds. So have a think about that, and also have a think about any stretches. Stretches tend to be really good at highlighting where things are really stuck in your body. So there's a million different stretches. that you could use to assess. I've got a few in the little PDF document below that you might want to download. It goes through an assessment, and then it does show some foam rolling and or like using a lacrosse ball kind of thing to help release areas where there's stuckness. You might get some great releases from that, and that might sort you out of pain. If not, then you can always book a session with me and just click on the booking link that you'll find scattered throughout the website. If you've got any questions, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to answer them. Congratulations on taking the steps towards moving through this phase of discomfort in your life. I'm here to help one way or the other, whether you want to use the PDF or whether you want to come in for a session. Either way, I look forward to hearing from you, and have a great day.